Good evening, everyone. I'm Martin Gosden. I'm the South Wales and West of England events coordinator. Having stepped down as chair after doing it for 18 years, I get time off for good behaviour, but carry on with the volunteering stuff. Welcome to this evening's webinar, we're very, very pleased to have welcome Elizabeth Harris from the Met Office, and she's the Programmes Director, and Sarah Mitchell, the Head of Project Delivery Capability, to talk about the transformation programme that's been going on in the Met Office's project delivery capability. Please be aware that this webinar is being recorded and that you are in listen-only mode. Presentation will last about an hour, about 40 minutes presentation, about good 20 minutes or so Q&A afterwards. For questions, please submit any questions you have as it goes through the presentation, actually via the question function on the platform. So please go in, and that'll be handled at the end of the session, and your questions will be gone through. Following the webinar, the recording will be uploaded onto the APM website on the YouTube account, and you'll be able to get access to the slides as well on the SlideShare account, both of which will be listed on the branch community page on the APM website. So please allow about 5 working days to deal with that. Any other questions that don't get dealt with tonight will be answered by our 2 presenters in slower time and go on the YouTube channel as well. Please join in with the Menti poll as well. The details on the screen, so get involved in that and let us know where you're from. I see you've got someone from the moon already. We've got someone from Guernsey, I think, as well. It's all just flashed up. So we've got several people from quite a long distance away. So welcome one and all. There'll be an evaluation survey as well, which you'll get part of the feedback from this. So please let us know what you want from us going forward in the future. We're a team as a team of volunteers. We only do what you want to do. We respond to your personal professional development needs and priorities. That's how we organise and prioritise our events. So please let us know what you think. A bit of APM information now. As a branch, we're continuing with starting face-to-face presentations now, as well as the hybrid presentations that mix, really trying to reach out the huge geographic coverage that we have in the branch. Makes life easier for us and yourselves as well, because people don't need to travel to get to places. I hope you've all seen the new APM branding and quite like that. You've seen it all over today's presentation, which is good. That was launched at the end of October. And also a reminder, please, of all the excellent resources on the APM website, which is there to help you. The APM Learning, the community page, where you can chat and talk to like-minded people and learn from each other. So do get engaged and use the resources that are available to you as members. There's a lot of information about Chartered Project Professional as well, including guidance webinars and all the guidance documents are on the website. So if you're interested in that, please do engage and take advantage of all the information that's available to you. And of course, the APM celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, and it's promoting the benefits of joining the APM by offering as an associate membership with a 50% off the joining fee, and you just need to use the code APM50 until the 31st of March 2023, and join everything that's is available to you via the APM as a chartered professional body. So looking at our student next events that we're coming up in the branch, 29th of November, there's a student networking evening at UWE, which we are supporting Iris House in actually organising and arranging. 1st December, we're looking at doing the best for society and the planet through project delivery. And we have very, very pleased to have Jo Jolly from the IPA, and she's doing a webinar on that subject. Mid-February, we're still finalising the dates on that. We're going to be looking at the role of the senior responsible officer, and that's a case study looking at the digital motorway a case study. 14th of March, we have a one-day seminar, really excellent value for money. Do get involved in that, a whole day, including all the refreshments. We've got a lineup of about 7 speakers looking about how you kick a project off, start it off properly. Kicking off on the right track. So it's a really exciting day, some excellent lineup of speakers. So do come along, and that's being held at Bower, which is North Bristol. So do come along and get signed up to that. It'll be good to see you all there. March again, dates to be finalised as well. We're looking at how artificial intelligence can help project management and the skills that project managers will need to take that to engage with that properly. We're lucky to have Alex Constantine from P Cubed talking about that particular subject. Then the 18th of April 23, we're looking at demystifying project risk management with practical tips for practitioners. And a lot of you will be aware of Dr. David Hilson, the risk doctor. Absolutely fantastic speaker around risk. If you don't attend any other event apart from that this year, you will miss a real fantastic event. So that's with me done now. It's my great pleasure to introduce our speakers tonight. Elizabeth Harris from the Met Office Programme Director and Sarah Mitchell, the Head of Project Delivery Capability. And tonight they're going to share how the Met Office Project Delivery Capability has been transformed, where they started from, where they are now, and where they plan to go to next. So Elizabeth and Sarah, over to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Martin. And just check everybody can see our slides. Yep. Oh, they should be up. That's great. So, as I say, welcome. I'm Elizabeth Harris and I'm Programmes Director at the Met Office. And Sarah will introduce herself shortly. I joined the Met Office a couple of years ago when it was going through quite an organisational restructure. And as part of that, a Programmes Directorate was created for the first time. But just before I sort of say a little bit more about that, I thought I would take you through our Met Office sort of strategy, as you may not be familiar with it. So our purpose is, as you can see on the screen, helping you make better decisions to stay safe and thrive. And you can be anybody from the individual citizen to government, to in other governments around the world, industry, academia. I don't think there's anybody who the weather doesn't have an impact on. So our focus really is on everybody. You'll see our vision there, and you'll probably notice that there are really two parts to that. Recognised as global leaders in weather and climate science. So we're very much at the forefront of scientific research into weather and climate. And then our services in a changing world. So the other part of our organisation, the bit you're probably familiar with, is all of the services that we put out, whether it's the weather forecast daily, the shipping forecast, whether it's the services we provide to various transport industries, trains, aviation, highways, whether it's to the sort of environmental wind farms. We have a huge number of services that go out every day, many thousands, and our services run 24/7, 365 or 366 days a year. There is weather all of the time. As part of the refresh of our organisation and our strategy, we developed three kind of anchors around which everything we do are tied. You can see those on the screen. Excellent people and culture, and that really focuses on making sure that we give our staff the best opportunities to develop their careers, whether they're just joined the organisation or they've been here a very long time. Making sure that our culture is inclusive, welcomes everybody, we treat people in the way that we would like to be treated, and we respect individuals for the skills and knowledge and experiences they bring. Exceptional science, technology and operations is very much around our keeping ourselves at the forefront of weather and climate science and operating effectively, efficiently and safely. And finally, extraordinary impact and benefit, which is really our customer and stakeholders focus. Everything we do has an end user, and this is really making sure that we are focused on their needs. Within each of those anchors, there are a number of strategic actions, which are sort of transformational activities within the organisation. I won't go through all of those, as they probably wouldn't need too much. You've also got our value proposition there. pioneering science, trusted services and global impact. Because we really do operate internationally. A lot of our work is outside of the UK, and our value symbols are along the bottom. We are better together. We're a force for good. We keep evolving. We're experts by nature, and we live it and breathe it, which I think are really nice. They were developed by staff, and they're certainly the values by which we work. I'd like to move on to the next slide. Right, so going back to our transformation journey, I mentioned that the Met Office has gone through quite a change over the last couple of years. Prior to 2019, our project delivery capability was scattered throughout the organisation. Individual directorates basically had a few people within the capability. There wasn't a professional home, local practices grew up, there was nobody who actually looked after the project programme community, and I suppose we're very much thought of as sort of almost second-class citizens alongside sort of scientific or meteorological colleagues. We had got a new executive director in place, CEO, who recognised that we actually needed a little bit more focus on how we delivered, and she created a Programmes Directorate. I saw an advert for the Programmes Director, applied for it, and was very fortunate enough to get it. So in, I think, November 2020, we started making those changes. I came in, was fortunate enough to be able to set up a new directorate and staff it. One of the first things that I actually did was pull together all of the professionals from across the organisation. That was the first time they had all been in a single place with a sort of a dedicated professional home. The other thing we started to do was also look at our projects and our programmes. When I arrived, I sort of said, well, what's my portfolio? How many programmes have I got? What kinds of projects? And I think the other thing we quite quickly discovered was that we call things programmes that aren't. We call things projects that aren't. And that's a journey that continues to today as we still find things happening in the organisation that have a title that doesn't actually cover what they are. So I think when shortly after I arrived, within a few months, we started putting the structural changes in place. The new directorate actually stood up in January 21. I not only own the project delivery capability, which is just over 120, 130-ish staff, but I also own the applied scientists who deliver much of the work that we do. So I had a directorate come together that was in two very different capability areas, which was interesting, I think, for all of those in the directorate, just seeing how we could work together and add value for our customers as we did come together. I think our first year was spent very much looking at how we could evolve that capability. We didn't have good career paths. We had a number of roles, project manager, where we had missing roles, and if you wanted to progress, you had to sort of almost do a double promotion to move on. We sorted out those kind of structural changes, made sure that people were actually valued for the profession that they were delivering, and started to make people a little bit proud of the fact that they were in the project delivery profession. More broadly and more corporately, I started to champion the role of project delivery professionals and the added value that they could bring to the organisation. So I think having a voice on the executive for the first time has actually made quite a difference, and with a body of people big enough to actually have career progression in, we've really been able to provide a good basis for careers within the organisation. So moving on, I think I've said some of this already. Yeah, we did have a lot of really great people who wanted to do a great job, but it was quite inconsistent across the organisation. I've mentioned the inconsistencies in delivery approaches and governance and no single voice. I haven't mentioned yet that we had a big imbalance between contractors and permanent staff, in that the capability probably had about 40-45% contractors when I came into the organisation. Again, I think that reflected the sort of value that others in the organisation previously had put on having a permanent capability. That is something we have looked at addressing, and that ratio has changed significantly now, with permanent staff I think around the 80%. So we've changed quite a lot there. And I've mentioned people development and career paths being very unclear, so they were the drivers. So what did we do? We came together as a Programmes Directorate, noting those two sort of separate communities, applied scientists and the project delivery capability, and put together a vision that pulled in all of the different skills that we had and what makes us unique within the Met Office. And the vision that you see on screen is the one that we collectively came up with. So we create extraordinary impact and benefit from exceptional science, engineering and technology through multidisciplinary project and programme teams. Within the Met Office, multidisciplinary teams was something quite new. A lot of delivery previously had been in sort of technical silos, and you didn't pull in people from other parts of the organisation. The multidisciplinary approach has been quite enlightening and has really enabled us to deliver a lot more impact to our customer communities. So, moving on, I thought I would just say a little bit about the breadth of what we actually deliver. I have a portfolio that has sort of 4 sub-portfolios, and you can see each of those on screen. First is customer facing, and this really looks at customers who are outside of the organisation. And just to give a little bit of a flavour there, I'm glad we've got somebody today from the moon, because our first box is we do space weather, so you're obviously benefiting from that. Second box on the top row is our weather and climate services. So yes, we go from weather, something we call nowcasting, which is 0 to 2 hours, through to climate, which is obviously beyond decadal, 40, 50, 60 years into the future. Next one is our aviation services. We work an awful lot with aviation and keep the industry safe in the air. And finally, we support defence on that top row, as you might imagine. Our next sub-portfolio is our strategic internal transformational portfolio. First box there represents some of the very complex modelling that we do. The next box, our flagship programme, our new supercomputer. That is a £1.2 billion programme, which is replacing our current supercomputer and is a government major project. And the final box there, gosh, that one's completely escaped me. Sarah, help me out.
That is the Strategic Exploitation Programme.
Okay, thank you. So those are very inward-facing activities, very much about our own transformation and making us fit for the future. We have an underpinning portfolio. So we look after our estate, our buildings, the offices we work from. We have obviously a network of radars and LiDARs and observation gathering equipment around the country and elsewhere. That's the second little radar symbol. Third one is the autonomous automotive industry. We're doing an awful lot of work, I suppose, defining the safe boundaries of operating autonomously in different kinds of weather conditions. And the fourth box there is meant to represent our internal sort of systems for HR, finance, so corporate systems there. And finally, the last portfolio, which is the smallest one, is really around looking at innovative and creative ideas. It's a little bit of a sandpit. It covers, I suppose, funding for what we might do in the future, explores different theories before they might move on into one of the other portfolios. So actually, the whole of the Met Office, as you can see, delivers quite a wide range of things, and all of that sits within Programmes Directorate. So moving on. So what we've got here, it is an organogram, maybe not the most interesting, and it just shows my senior leadership team structure. I think if we just click on one, this particular slide really illustrates that when I came into post, there was only a single member of staff that I currently have in position, and that was a strategic sub-portfolio manager. Every other post is new. So we have, I suppose I've had the luxury of being able to select individuals to come in to the directorate. They haven't brought a lot of, bad word to use, but baggage, I suppose, with them. It's new. We have been able to do things from scratch, which is a real luxury. I think the other point I would make here is many of the people on the screen have come in from the outside world, not particularly previously in civil service, so a number of people from industry. So we've actually been able to bring in quite a breadth of experience. I think at this point I actually hand over to Sarah, who goes down into a bit more detail.
Hi everybody, so I'm Sarah Mitchell. I head up the project delivery capability. So I've got the honour of pulling together the capability together, so all of the P3M professionals, and to really focus on their career path and their development, but also focus on delivery, because we've got a lot to deliver by what Elizabeth has explained to you and shared with you around the breadth of what we do. It's staggering. I can't reinforce that to you, how much we actually do and what we cover. When I came into post, there were 3 team leaders that were in post that we put in to stabilise it, but the big factor for me, there was no vision. We had no view of what we wanted to do or how we actually wanted to do that delivery point of view. So I sat there and I sort of thought through actually what I would want to do, how I would want to deliver that for the team and to make sure that they were brought into this. So the Met Office is a science-based organisation. I can't reinforce that or state that enough, and Elizabeth explained that as well. But what we needed to do is to move away from the hard words. So I brought in a view around how we deliver. So if I wanted to deliver something, I delivered it in the right way, that at the end of the day, who I delivered it to believed in what I delivered, it was the right thing to deliver, and the people that were on the project team with me wanted to come on that journey with me again. So it was all brought into that context. So I intentionally used the word beautiful when I talk about delivery at the Met Office and what I want our world to think about when we talk about it. So it's all the change elements that you can think about. It's all of the people empowerment. So beautifully to me is around how we deliver. We deliver it in the right ways. We're about implementing. We embed the project delivery capability. It's also around empowering our people. And this is the biggest factor for me, is around empowerment of our people. We're going to lead, we're going to be consistent in our messaging. I want people to have engagement and collaboration. So it's a really big thing for me around beautifully deliver. And to be honest, when I first had that conversation and I sort of played it back to Elizabeth to see how the word would land, because it's quite a disruptive word in a science-based organisation, Elizabeth was very supportive of that. And when I started to roll it out, I had a few smirks, I had a few comments from real hardcore project delivery people, but it stuck. And when they talk about it now, they talk about it in a light way, and it's something that's really starting to build in with the culture. And this is something that we really believe in, and this is what we're going across the Met Office with. So when people talk about delivery, it's around beautifully deliver. And it may sound a bit odd in some of your areas that we work in, your industries, but for us, that at the time that we're trying to deliver transformational change, it's working, and we're starting to progress on with that. A part of this for me is when I sat and started to talk to the team, actually, what do we want our capability principles to be? So we talked around brilliant delivery. So if you notice, a lot of the words that I use are things like beautiful, brilliant. I will use magnificent, fabulous. I will intentionally use these words because they're not directly related to the project delivery words. So when I look to the principles, so we go back to the right thing, right time, right quality, you'd expect me to say that. Integrity, honesty, and doing the right thing. I'm not saying people aren't honest around what they were doing. I wanted to just bring it up to the forefront so people could think about it when they were engaging with other people and they were doing the collaboration and the teamwork. Continuous improvement and innovation is very important. We started on a journey. We've got a long way to go. So if people have got lean experience and they can bring that into it, and we can start working through actually how we can change things for the better, I would rather do that. I would want to empower our people and for them to empower others. And by that, it's giving people safe parameters to play in, to try new stuff. So if you fail fast, we learn from that, we move on. It's not a case of you've done something really wrong. I'd rather somebody try new things and then we can work with them and to support them going forward. So that's what it's about for me, to empower people. And empowerment sounds a really easy thing to do. It isn't. All of this that I'm saying to you has been a really hard journey, and we're still on that, and we're still adopting and we're still sustaining some of this change that we're doing. Some people aren't comfortable having empowerment. They just don't like that. They haven't worked in that way before. So this is all new learning that we're bringing into play across the project delivery capability. I've just put up a structure diagram so you can see. So you've got Elizabeth at the top, and then you've got Nicola Ford, and then there's myself, and then my team. It fluctuates between 90 to 125, a mixture of contractors and permanent staff. So to be able to manage that amount of the team that we've got, I've got 8 team leads in place. The team leads are aligned to the sub-portfolios. So we will potentially have people that are skilled in certain areas like technology, or we've got international development programs going on. So I've got program managers, project managers that are experts in working in Africa and Asia. So we've got those elements. So that's another blend that we need to take into play when we're looking at our structures and manage what the projects that come into us are. So the actual journey that we've been on together, so I won't go through all of this slide because you can all see it up there. So when I first came into play, we had the project managers, although they were all under one director, so under Elizabeth, they were still in different teams. So all of those people were pulled together into one team. So we have the communications plan around that, what they would all look like. We then did an interim structure that was put in place, and then we kicked off a piece of work. So the FOC is the full operating capability. So that was going to be the target operator model for the project delivery capability, and how we would do that with the stakeholder management, the comms, the union engagement, all the type of stuff that you would expect to see that we went through from that point of view. A big part of this for me is around what the actual governance was. So we are an arm's length body of BASE. So a part of that is there's a government framework called the Project Delivery Capability Framework. So that was already out there, so we didn't want to reinvent anything because we wanted to align to our government agencies. So we picked up PDCF, we reviewed it, all agreed and decided it was the right thing to do, so we implemented PDCF. For people that aren't aware of that, it is definitely worth Googling it, putting it out there and seeing what it actually means. It's fantastic. It gives really clear roles and responsibilities. There's clear career progression, clear paths on that. And there's also a thing on there that talks you around if you're working at level or practitioner level. So there's all the competencies based on that, which are also aligned to APM. So you will see an overlap from that point of view as well. So that was really great, and we're still carrying on with that now. And we've got a project complexity assessment that we look at that we've introduced as well now, that gives us a clear view of what the level of complexity of project or program is going to be, so we get the right level of skill set of our staff that go onto that as well. So there's been a lot of work gone around this from a PDCF point of view. We also did a big piece around actually operating principles. So we rolled those out, we shared them, we tweaked them, we tailored them. So none of this has landed and it's gone perfectly. We've learned as we've gone away, like you would expect with any transformational change piece. So that's all been worked through as well. Another big thing that's come along for us as well is around the demand management piece. A lot of you are probably experienced in saying there's lots of priorities come in, you've got to resource them all. We started to really look at actually how this aligns to the strategy, what's the right thing to do, when it's the right thing to do it, and what sub-portfolios they would sit in. And then we could do our forecasting and our demand against that. So there's been so much work that's been put into that as well. So it's been really impressive to actually see this in action. And then it's not a case of our journey. So our journey is continuing. You saw where we started. It continues. We're going to keep going on and keep evolving with continuous improvement, which takes us to the piece of, and we keep evolving. There's so much to do. So from this slide, so we've got our people. We've got great people. We've also working in a challenging marketplace. As you can imagine out there, marketplace is strong for people. So it's attracting and keeping our talent in place. So we keep on bedding our career path, so more on PDCF that's coming. We're doing lots of enhancements to our tools. So we've got now a new project management tool that we put in place. We're doing enhancements to that to make sure it actually is being used in the right way, the quality of the data. We've done a whole piece around talent management, which is critical to our staff because they know that we're really focusing on them and they're important to us. Because to be honest, we're absolutely nothing without our people. We've done a whole piece around early careers. So last year was the first year that we've actually had apprentices in, which we are really proud of. Elizabeth, we are extremely proud of that.
We are.
So we've got 5 apprentices in, they're absolutely fantastic. This October, they should be finishing their, next October, they'll be finishing their assessments. And then we've already made unconditional offers. Actually, there will be a role in place for them as well. And we're looking at doing our next cohort of that. But to demonstrate our apprentices how good that they've been, we're getting them to help lead recruitment of that next cohort as well. So they're going to be involved in that and engaged in that. The development stretch for our people. This is all about, we've got all of our community sat together now. So if I've got a program manager that wants to stretch and wants to look at international development or wants to do space weather, they're all in that same area, so we can look at actually where they want to go, what's their next step. So we've got all of that. So that's something that we're really building onto as well. And then building our capability. So now we've got our community of practice in place. So we've now got our really strong head of profession. We have also aligned more to bays. So next week, we have got the head of professional bays coming in to talk to everybody, which is absolutely fantastic because it's not something that we've actually done before. So we're starting to really engage and bring the community of practice together. We also have got the PMO that's being stood up, and that is now being turned from a PMO that was primarily contractors because we needed it to be set up urgently. It's now a team that's made up of permanent staff, and we're also focusing actually what that means from a centre of excellence. So they're really big steps we need to go forward to. From a sub-portfolio, as Elizabeth talked about, we've got the different sub-portfolios. We've done a whole piece on the governance around what the sub-portfolio management should look like, because as you can imagine, the supercomputer with how much money is involved in that, we really need to do that in the correct way in all the reports back to the government. Business change is a very interesting one for me. So business change is something that we want to go for. I'm not saying that we don't do business change. I'm saying that we need to really build that capability up from a delivery lens. So project managers, program managers understand exactly what it means when we deliver something to people. So they're ready for that. They understand it. It's all of those elements. So I want to do a bit of a regroup around, do people know what business change is? Do they know what success looks like? Because that's really important, which all loops back to actually how we deliver. From a Met Office point of view, we beautifully deliver. That's something that we really champion and something that we're really going for. And I'm more than happy to take any questions, or if people want a session outside of this to really go into the detail of this, I'm more than happy to those sessions as well. So
I think as we come to the end, I thought I might just present a few interesting facts that you might not know about the Met Office. So Sarah has mentioned our international projects and programmes a few times. Actually, one of the things quite specifically we're doing is saving lives in Africa. Lake Victoria has very difficult to forecast weather conditions, and an awful lot of lives are lost or have been lost on Lake Victoria due to sudden changes in those conditions. We have been working with local forecasters on the ground, both teaching them how to forecast, improving skills so that they can do it themselves, and looking at how you communicate different weather forecasts and how you get people to act on them around Lake Victoria, which has saved hundreds of lives each year. Another thing that we have worked on in Africa is actually looking at how the locusts move across the continent. That's very dependent on the weather, the sort of trajectories that they take, and being able to warn farmers ahead of the locusts arriving has enabled crops to be gathered, which helps people not to starve, I suppose. So that's something else that we have been doing. Closer to home, lobster populations. Lobsters are very susceptible to changes in their environment over a period of time. So they are a really good indicator of how the climate is impacting on the world around us. So we have been tracking the lobster populations of an area of Wales for quite a long time to help us look at the impact of climate change. So there's something else you might not have known about us. We've talked about being a scientific organisation, and we publish a significant body of papers every year. A number of those, 375 in the year I looked at, are in peer-reviewed scientific journals. So they are of the highest quality, things like Nature and other papers like that. So our scientific reputation is very high around the world. And finally, we do offer a personal service. There is a phone number for the Met Office, which if you ring, you will get a real person on the other end of the weather desk. So you can actually ask if it's going to be great for your event on the particular day. And we even get people asking us to arrange weather. I don't think they've quite understood what the Met Office really does there, but we do get people asking us to stop it raining or to make sure it's a sunny day for a personal event, a wedding or something like that. So I think that's all we were going to say, and I think we now move on to the Q&A session, and we'll try and answer any questions that you have.
Thanks, Elizabeth and Sarah. That was very interesting, and really interesting to know as well you can ring up for your personal forecast. We've had a few questions come in, but anyone else, if you want to submit your questions, please add them to the questions panel. So the first question is, what level of maturity would you say the Met Office has achieved today?
Oh, that's interesting. So I think certainly when I came in, I would have assessed our maturity at less than 1, pretty much across the board. But, right now, I think we are between 1 and 2 if we were being assessed formally. And that's really because we are pulled down on our resource management. We don't have across the whole of the Met Office, resource management tool. And as whoever asked the question will know, you're assessed at your lowest common denominator. So I think we're still at probably between 1 and 2, close to 2. Other areas, I would say actually we have achieved 3. My overall goal at the moment is to be at 3 across the board within 18 months.
Thank you. And Tim has asked, could you please expand on enhancement tools or enhancement to tools?
So we're currently using a tool set via ServiceNow. It's been implemented 8 months. So it's a new tool set. So it gives us a view of all of the project plans, the risks, all that type of stuff that you'd expect to do from a project management perspective. It's a new tool to people. People love MSP. They love using the whole Microsoft project. So it's trying to get people away from that. So we've got a more standard, consistent set of tools So we've already had that implemented, but it's embedding that in. We've also got a lot of requests coming in for new different ways of working around the tool, and we've actually got another phase 2 of the project coming as well to take that step going forward. So that's one of the tools. We've talked about PDCF, so we are looking at the Competency Framework. We're trying to align to GHOST, which is the government framework that they align to from that point of view, but we've got our own version of that. So basically, if you were a project manager, you would get a list of all the competencies and the level that you should be operating at, and you would score yourself against them. So you would do that, and you would sit with your line manager, and they would sit and do that with you, and then out of that would then help you with a clear personal development plan of what you could go forward as well. PDCF also gives you a view of what level you are at, of what types of qualifications that you should have as well. So that's another part of the tool set that we would currently use.
Thank you. And Mike asks, what benefits do you envisage from implementing a PMO?
The PMO, from my perspective, is around clear, consistent governance. It's around the ways of working, and it's really, really clear around the quality of our data to be able to make decisions. So we can't expect Elizabeth, for example, in our sub-portfolio to make critical decisions if the data that she's got is not correct, it's not accurate. It covers the finances, it covers everything that you could imagine. It's the right level of information and data that we need. It also helps it from a risk management point of view, because we will have a certain level of risk appetite as well. So PMO will help pull those together, and it's around the consistency of that. And a lot of it for us as well is around best practice. It's around learning, it's around embedding as well. I don't know if you want to answer any more to that.
I think the only thing I would add to that is when prior to having a PMO being set up, there was no management information on the portfolio. So despite having quite a large delivery portfolio, the executive had no information on which to make decisions. So they were not evidence-based decisions. They were decisions based on whatever you could get hold of at the time. So I think, as Sarah says, we've been able to really improve the quality of our decision-making by implementing a PMO that has, as best set us common standards, that does gather that information, that does dig into the detail, improves the data quality. Basically, throughout the organisation, we're making better quality decisions that are evidence-based now.
Thank you. And Jeff has asked, what impact did the COVID pandemic have on the transformation programme?
Gosh, that's a good question. Almost none at all, to be honest. The Directorate stood up during the pandemic, so it was all virtual. We started that way. I think in many ways, because we had no set ways of working that we knew about prior to the pandemic, we came in and that was the way we worked. So it had very little impact. I think probably the key one was we didn't see many of the people that we worked with for a long time, not in 3D. We only built our team through Teams, which is quite an interesting way to sort of build relationships. So I think it probably took a little bit longer to become a really high-performing team, because you don't have those extra bits you get when you're in the office and you're seeing people on a regular basis and you're just chatting by the coffee machine or wherever else it is and building those kind of personal relationships. So I think that will be it for me. Sarah?
I think for me, because a lot of it was online, we had to really go to town on the communications. So actually that was a real positive for me, because I would rather be accused of over communicating than under communicating. So we probably ramped it up a lot to really get those messages across as well. And it's like Elizabeth said, when I was brought into post, it was COVID, so I was interviewed online. So Elizabeth interviewed me online. So, and a lot of our folk we've brought in that way as well. So it's been a really interesting journey, but it's been fun as well to actually meet people and really agree on how we're going to work and going forward, and especially embracing hybrid. It's been really impressive actually to see how it's being done.
And just to link to that, Mike has asked, are you still primarily virtual post-COVID?
No, not really. To be honest with you, because the team's quite vast, we have a lot of people that come into the office of their own free will. So for example, every Thursday, most people in project delivery capability come in because we like to have a little networking session. We meet up, the team leads come in. So primarily we tend to choose a day a week, but it's not a day that everyone just agrees on. It's just natural that people sort of go onto that day. But if there's project work or there's deliveries coming on, and we're doing a lot of work with Microsoft as well, and there's events like that, sometimes it's business driven, so you need to come in for that as well. But I've got such a blend of people that are in and out the office. Some people come in 3 times a month. It's just working at this moment in time, and it feels right for people, and it still fits with people because COVID's still there. It's just the way that we're actually working as those teams to work through it.
And more broadly across the Met Office, we encourage people to come in 40% of the time and work flexibly the rest of their time. So it's very much we've embraced the freedoms that COVID have encouraged and allowed, and have a hybrid workforce as a result.
And I'm still in meetings where I still get a lot of pets that turn up on people's cameras and stuff, which always still makes me smile now. So that's still pretty cool that people are still doing it.
Thank you. And Robert has asked, is the Met Office moving to more agile means of project delivery, or is it still waterfall?
So we have got a mixture, and it depends on what project or programme that you're working on. So we have definitely got in the delivery space, their DDAT has been rolled out from a delivery point of view as well. So there is agile, we've got the Scrum, we've got the product owners, that type of stuff there. So it really depends on what the actual requirement is. Some projects, such as a infrastructure project, such as building works, tends to fall more for a waterfall point of view, but you know this, and an agile is around more the software development stuff. So there is a definite blend. And from a skill set point of view within the capability, I've got people that are agile, I've got people that are both, and people that are just waterfall. So it just works on actually where that development and where the stretch is for those people they want to go.
Thank you. And Nina has asked, project management support at exec level tends to be waxed and waned. What tips do you have to maintain their support at that level?
Keep saying the word beautifully deliver.
So I suppose I think obviously Met Office has taken a positive step by saying actually we want somebody on our executive who is in the capability, who looks after it, and we are going to professionalise the way we deliver. So that is a really big step forward. I'm delighted that they did that, clearly. I think I would also say that 18 months, 2 years in, I think we're really starting to see some of the benefits. And I think I mentioned we still have projects and programmes that sort of creep out of the woodwork. And I'm now getting colleagues coming to me, executive colleagues coming to me saying, actually, we've been doing this thing. I think it actually might benefit with some framework around it. It feels more like a programme. So I think I take that as absolute success if I've got people, maybe a technical director coming to me to say, actually, I think I need some project management around this. I can see the benefits of it. I think you can give me a structure. I think you can give me a better path to delivery. So I think keeping that view, demonstrate the benefits quietly at first. Don't shout too much about them, because we are a scientific organisation at heart.
And we have got a great value proposition on what we do, and it's selling our value proposition. But there's also the other side of that, when Elizabeth's got these people, everyone coming to her, then I've got to try and resource it, and then I'm in doubt, actually, is that a project? I'm not sure it is, it is a BAU. So we have those kind of debates and conversations as well that go on. So.
Thank you. And Paulo asks, how were your general experiences in terms of organisation buy-in into changes you implemented internally? What were the biggest challenges?
From my perspective, so my background's private sector. So this is my first play in this space of public sector from my perspective as well. I had my own personal challenges to understand moving from private to public. But from an organisation piece, everything that I have looked at or discussed with Elizabeth to put in place, I'll always remember one conversation with Elizabeth, was around when I was sort of talking around what I wanted to do and how I was going to do it. And I asked Elizabeth for her advice, because she knew the Met Office better than I did. And it will always stay with me, and I'll always quote this to people. Elizabeth basically said to me, I had carte blanche to do what I needed to do to get the right organisation in place and empower our people. That was the big thing. Followed up by a statement on, if you're going to go and break something to get it in place or go against how the Met Office culture works, that's fine as well. Just let me know that you're doing it, so I'm ready there to push people away to give you that breathing space to do it. Hence the thing around the empowerment and the ethos of just taking stuff forward. So from a support point of view, Elizabeth was that support, which then gave me more freedom, because I've always worked autonomous, so I was a bit, have I still got that? Can I still be autonomous in the public sector? Yes, I can. It's been fantastic, because I've had Elizabeth catching anything that's coming towards me. If I'm sort of given the nod, I've just done that, be prepared. So from that point of view, it's been fine for me. Some of the challenges that I've had is when I started to talk about PDCF, people were concerned that there would be a salary impact negative to them. So I had to do a really, really clear piece of work with the unions and with them to talk around. There's not going to be an impact. All the stuff that I'm trying to put in place for you is positivity. We're not looking to take anyone's salary away, and we haven't taken anyone's salary away. We always said that if someone wasn't up to that right level, and we've worked with them to get them to that right level. So that was one of the challenges is around from the people side, from my point of view.
I think from my point of view, making sure that you really do have good change management in place, that you actually put effort in, you actually put really good people in to look at your change management and deliver that is, I suppose, is the key for me.
Thank you. And Alexandra has asked, asking project professionals to assess their skills can be very emotive, especially when they have years of experience. Was that the case for you? How did you overcome that?
To be honest, because we did such a sales pitch on PDCF, what it was going to do for people, because it was all positive, there wasn't too much pushback. And it's more about I think it would be worse if a line manager, if Elizabeth came into me and said, I've looked at your competencies, I think you're there, I would push back on that, because it wouldn't go naturally with me. But if I was empowered to look at my own and then think, right, okay, this is where I am, and then Elizabeth would then come and then look at it with me, I think that's a different story. What I have found, or what we found across the piece, people are probably harder on themselves, and they've got more skill in the game than what they're actually saying. And that means from people that have been doing it for a long time as well. So it's quite interesting from a psychology point of view to see where people are with their thinking, their thoughts about themselves. It's the same when you do end of year reviews, for example. People that tend to be harder on themselves than they're actually more positive about themselves. So I haven't had too much pushback at all from that point of view, to be honest. People are interested in if there is a difference in opinion of why they think that, and then it's down to the line manager to explain it, and for the person that's going back to them to make an agreement and an understanding of it. But I haven't anything that I think, oh no, that's not right. People have been quite open and honest with their assessments.
Thank you. And Miriam asks, how do you assess your performance during your transformation journey?
Okay, so as you would expect, we actually ran it as a project, and like any project, we had a schedule, we had outputs at particular stages, we would review it, and I'll be honest, it didn't all go really smoothly. There were times when we realised things were not going quite to plan, and we had to step in, or actually Sarah stepped in and got us back on track at one major juncture. So we ran it as a project, really what you would expect.
But from our delivery piece of view, so when we were doing the full operating capability, it wasn't just my world that was going through it, it was Elizabeth's whole directorate. So it was important that we put the right governance around that. And it's like Elizabeth said, we had a few hiccups, we had a few moments. But because we were open and honest with each other, and we challenged each other quite a lot as a senior leadership team as well, we pulled together. And if someone had made a slight faux pas, then we faced that together, and then we sort of changed direction slightly on that. But all of it we overcome, because you had to. Because at the end of the day, especially from my point of view, and I know from Elizabeth's as well, it's around people. So our people, and I will really go to town on this, our people are the most important part of what we do. Without them, we wouldn't do anything, we wouldn't deliver. So that's the critical point for me. So it was all about our people.
Thank you. And Ashok has said, I am guessing your directorate is benefits driven. Do you have a delivery map of your portfolio outlined, and how did you link the benefits to the objectives in your long and short term roadmap for the Met Office?
That's a great question. Elizabeth? Outstanding.
So I think you might hope that we had those items in place, but I think, like many organisations, we struggle with our benefits maturity, to be honest. And I think that we probably did not spend as much time identifying really clear benefits, monitoring and tracking them as we should have done. So it was a great question. We've learnt a lot, and I think we learnt that we didn't do exactly what we should have done on the way through. We now have quite a body of work that's focusing on improving our benefits maturity. I'd also say that what we have found is that we're not alone, and it's really difficult to recruit benefits specialists into the organisation. So we are trying to sort of grow our own. We're looking across the BAYS family of organisations to say, actually, we know that everybody's struggling to find benefit specialists. What can we learn together? Who's got the best practice? What can we take forward? So, yeah, we didn't do it right, I'm afraid, but we'll be better in the future.
And as a little pitch, so we are looking to do another recruitment campaign for benefits managers, and we've also got various campaigns open now for project managers level 3, which we would class as senior project managers. So this is our little pitch to say there's loads of opportunities at the Met Office, great place to work.
Thank you both, and thank you for answering all of those questions. We've had quite a few more come in, so we'll definitely get those answered post-event for everybody. Just before I pass back over to Martin, I would just like to say that Ashok has asked if you can make it snow over Christmas, please. But if that's out of your control, that's understandable. Martin, over to you. Thank you both, ladies.
No, I think it's a fantastic presentation. It's just wonderful, so wonderful when people are so open and honest about sharing good practice and sharing their learning and sharing sort of what went well, what they could do sort of differently in future. And the answers to the Q&As have been fantastic. The questions have been absolutely superb, actually. The whole presentation is just so uplifting, I think, on understanding your journey and how you've taken it from the very beginning, but it's sort of capability level sort of below 1, I suspect. And you're still on that journey now. And I've been there myself in the MOD doing basically the same thing. So I share your pain, but I think the way you've gone about it and with such a positive attitude, I think the language you're using is fantastic. And that probably shows the diversity in the team you have. And I think it's really good. And that attracts people in. And I get this sense that you're embedding that diversity and that language beautiful. and fantastic and great and super into the culture. And that's really positive as well. And I think there's so many lessons that people will take away from this evening's sort of a presentation, and look to the Met Office as a really, really fantastic exemplar of how to do it right. But by admitting that sometimes you could do things a little bit better, but that's the whole point. No one ever gets to level 5 on the sort of capability frameworks on these things, because you're always continuously learning, and that's what it's all about. So I'd like to thank you both very, very much for all the work you put in on this, and being so open, honest, and frank, and very light-hearted as well about the whole thing. So thank you very much indeed. Much appreciated. So thank you all very much for diving in and joining us for today. So that's great stuff. Please let us have the feedback that we need as well, to make sure that we're fully on track for meeting what you require in the future as well. And as sort of Elizabeth and Sarah said, they will answer any questions that Ellie wasn't able to do, and all go on the website in due course. I'd also like to thank Ellie as our sort of webinar jockey, sort of number one, to taking us through all the technical side of this as well, making sure it's all worked properly. So thank you all very much indeed. Have a very good evening and a very good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.